Hi, I'm Gail and welcome back to lowcarbrecipeIdeas.com. Today we're going to make an amazing cracker. It's a low-carb almond parmesan cracker. So it's got almond flour and parmesan cheese and a little bit of garlic. It's a simple recipe. The hardest part of doing this recipe is rolling it out. Other than that, it's a really easy, quick recipe and I'm quite happy with it. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make it. Now this is a very simple recipe, other than it's rolling it out is the hardest part of the whole thing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 1.5 cups of almond flour. And then I'm going to add in a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Now I'm using this, I know a lot of people say it's not good for you, but this is what I'm using, but you can get fresh Parmesan and make it really fine, which will work just as lovely as this. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon of garlic salt. So we're just going to mix this up to try and get all our spices mixed in with our flours and our cheese. And I'm wearing a glove because I'm going to be mixing this with my hand. Yeah, I just find it a lot nicer to use a glove. Now we're going to add in one beaten egg, lightly beaten. Now the gooey part is we're going to mix it all up with my hands. So I'll mix this up till I have it thoroughly mixed. I'm trying to do it this way so I don't get my glove all gooey, so the almond powder and stuff will mix in and it won't be so messy. So I'll keep working on this till I have it all mixed. So I've got it mixed nicely. Now I'm going to take my silicone mat. You could do this on parchment paper, but I'm using parchment paper on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet. But I've got this silicone mat here that I absolutely love. I was unsure at the time, but I quite love it now. And it is a smart baking mat. And what I've done is, because I'm finding this works really well and quickly, if you're using cookie sheets, I find they're not big enough, so that means I have to do baking, twice over or whatever. Like I've got to keep putting in pans, taking them out, and then putting in another pan, taking them out. So what I did was I took this big silicone mat, and it's smart baking mat is what it's called, and I cut it. It was quite large, so I cut off some of the measurements, and what I did was I measured it to my rack in the oven. So I'm preheating my oven now. I've taken the rack out so that I can make it easier to put the silicone mat on the rack and put it right in the oven, and then they bake up beautifully. So that's a trick that I've been doing lately, and I quite like it. Now my parchment paper we're going to put on top, and I've used this parchment paper before. So what I've been doing is washing off my silicone mat, wiping off the parchment paper, rolling it up, and putting it away until I'm ready to make more crackers. Because, gosh, I just felt like I was throwing parchment paper away all the time, so I just reuse them again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to roll my batter out so I can get it super thin, like a 1/16 of an inch thin, on this silicone mat. And I'll keep working on this till I have it all rolled out, and then we'll go from there. So I'm still rolling it out because I want to make sure it's thin enough. And don't be scared to press hard, because you don't want it too thick, because you want it to be a nice cracker and you can get more crackers out of it too. So I just want you to see, I kind of go by the feel as to what I think of the thickness. I think that's pretty good. So what we'll do next is, there we go. I'll set that aside. So all I'm going to do now is take my pizza cutter, if you've got one, or if you don't have one, you can use a knife. I could square these all off that they're going to be perfectly square, but I don't really care. That's up to you whether or not that's what you want to do with yours. But I'm just going to score them. And I've got the oven preheated at 350, so I just cross over now. See how they're flipping off nicely? The silicone mats are amazing. So if you can find a really big one like this one, my husband actually got it on sale at Home Hardware, and I just went, what'd you buy this thing for? Well, I'm very happy that he did, because finally I've had it forever. Whoops. Looks like I've been drinking making these squares. I've had it forever and never did anything with it. So this is perfect. So now what I'm going to do, hopefully you can see this in the video. I'm just going to slide it on. And now we're all set to put it in the oven. It's perfect. It just makes life so much easier having it all in one, because normally my cookie sheets are a good size, but normally I have to make 2 batches and I don't want to. So if you can find something like this, give her a go. So I put them in the oven at 350 and I'm timing it gradually. I've done 8 minutes just to be safe, because they can burn very easily. So what I've done is I've taken my crackers out and I put them on a metal pan, and the oven is still warm. It's kind of hot but warm. I'm just putting them back in. I'm going to let them just crisp up. I took them out early because they were burning on the sides, and I have burnt them terribly before. So this is why I'm doing it this way, and I get some awesome crackers. So here are my low-carb Parmesan crackers. They're really, really good. They're actually the first cracker that I've made, or even tried other crackers on the website, that I can eat it by itself. I quite like these. Now the real trick to these is I only baked them, I think it was 7 minutes, because the edges were starting to get brown. I did a batch before and I burnt them like crazy. So what I decided to do was I took them out at the 7 minutes, but you need to really pay attention to see if they're browning along the edges, because they do burn easy. Then what I did was shut off the oven and then put them on a metal cookie sheet, and then I waited for the oven to cool off just a bit, not so fierce in the temperature of 350. Then I put them back in, and then I watched them to see if they were browning, because they do change their color a little to a lighter, but they're really good. If you can hear the crunch, because what happens is when I took them out earlier, the outsides were crunchy, the inside was still soft, so I wanted to dry them out, and it worked beautifully. So even if you put the timer on, let's say for 4 or 5 minutes, just to be safe, that you're not burning them with the heat, even though the oven's not on. So I just have a little piece of cheese there. It's really good. I think you're going to like these ones. And I hope that with the silicone mat, you find a mat big enough that you can put everything on one, like the whole recipe on one. So you don't have to keep putting in the oven, out of the oven, in the oven. So it worked really well. I just cut my mat up and it was perfect. So if you'd like to go to lowcarbrecipe.com, try this low-carb Parmesan cracker, and try some of my others. You take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.